So I just thought I would add that Ray has been so good to be making these transcripts, which I appreciate so much. And he is distributing them for $5 each if anybody was interested in getting a hold of a transcript. So we just thought we'd put that at the front of the recording in case there was any folk out there who were interested. And how can they contact you, Ray? Maybe under the YouTube. What do you think? If it's someone who's not in this group?
Well, I mean, why don't you just have them contact you? Or I mean, I don't know.
And then I'll connect them. Right? Yeah. Okay, perfect.
So, Ash,
yes.
In the description, would you like to mention your email ID? So that if someone reads and they want to send you a message, that could be one of the things. Otherwise, in the description, they could always, I do just definitely check all the chats coming in over there.
Yeah, okay.
But otherwise, if you just mention your email, that's a good way of people just sending you a message directly.
Keeping communicating. Yes, perfect. Yes. Okay, I'll do that. Okay, so let's get going. Thank you so much for coming back. After the hiatus, I thought I'd log on today and just be me again. That's great. Okay.
You for coming back.
Glad to be here.
Greetings, this is Zariyah from the Orion civilization. We are so pleased that you have joined with us here today to listen to a brief transmission on the power of your strong emotions. We would like to acknowledge that many beings on your planet are experiencing powerful emotional sensations through this transition year of 2024. And it can seem that from moment to moment, one is being pulled from pillar to post in terms of the emotional spectrum, from feelings of sheer bliss and elation to feelings of spiraling somewhat out of control and feeling discombobulated. And we are here to reassure you that your strong emotions are a powerful component in your higher mind's ability to offer you guidance. Perhaps you are aware already at this stage that there is a portal through your emotions to the wisdom and guidance and clarity of your higher mind. Your emotions are not something that is just set upon you. They are not a vulnerability created in you that is responsive to circumstance. They are an indication and a communication tool from your higher mind to you regarding where you are on your path. Many of you have heard the phrase written by your Joseph Campbell, follow your bliss. And many other channels have implored you to follow your highest excitement, follow your joy. And of course, this is a condensed version of the message that your emotions will lead you on the path as it unfolds. But we are here to tell you it isn't just your positive emotions that have the power to guide you along your path. During the awakening of the Orion light, we experienced emotions of profound despair, and it was the discomfort of those emotions that helped us to push forward in search of a better emotional state, or what could be described also as a better vibrational frequency range. It was the prevalence of the emotions of despair and discomfort that propelled us so studiously forward on our task to seek a higher vibrational bracket. And it was as we moved up the vibrational scale and we experienced waves of emotions that we had not experienced for some time, such as hope, such as joy, such as humor, such as connection, such as liberation and freedom, that we started to recognize the markers of moving up the vibrational scale. Therefore, you can recognize that when you do experience those powerful emotions, it is not something that is going to suck you in. It is something that is going to propel you forwards along your path. You can say to yourself, here I am in despair and confusion. How exciting. I can use this emotional vibrational frequency range as a marker, as a platform from which to launch myself forward. And as I experience emotions such as calm, such as restoration, such as soft synchronicity, I can recognize that I am moving forward through the emotional range and the vibrational frequency range. How exciting. It is for that we will tell you to embrace all of your emotions in this time of transition. They are powerful markers. They are powerful indicators to you that you are moving along your path, and that all emotions, the ones that even you would consider negative, are actually a source of information and can be a source of inspiration, launching you forward into a higher vibrational frequency bracket. We do hope that this helps you to use your emotions as tools and value them as wise friends and information keepers on your path. If you do have any questions, we would be happy to answer them at this time.
Hi, Zariyah.
Hello.
So lately, the last couple of weeks, during my dreams and in my meditation or quiet time, stillness, I've been getting a lot of direction about how to deal with my physical reality. And to summarize it, it seems to me like this, that I keep getting guidance that other than following my intuition, inspiration, impulses, all my work is with my mind and my beliefs.
Yes.
That when I feel bad, that's a huge gift to me.
Yes.
And that I need to examine what is the belief in me behind that. Where am I afraid and where am I disempowering myself? Does that sound reasonable?
Yes, indeed. Of course, your emotions are reflecting to you a sensation that is based on whether or not a belief is in alignment with the understanding of your higher mind. Where you have a belief that is in contradiction to the knowledge of your higher mind, that produces a powerful negative emotion. And that is where the potential of a negative emotion is. You can interrogate the belief that is informing the emotion. If you feel something like despair, you can ask yourself what belief system is causing that emotional reaction in you, because despair is a feeling produced not as a communication from your higher mind, but it is a communication from your reaction to a belief that is out of integrity or out of alignment with your higher mind. If you can imagine, again, we will refer to our civilization, that our despair came from thinking that we were imprisoned and we, in fact, had no way to break out of the cage that we thought ourselves to be in. And in fact, the higher mind and our collective Orion higher mind knew that that belief system was erroneous, that we had everything we needed to break out of what we felt was an imprisoning matrix, and it was within us. It was our capacity to raise our vibration. And as we allowed ourselves to understand that the despair that we felt was an indication of a jumping off point to a different emotional vibrational frequency range, but also into a different structure of belief. We were not imprisoned by someone else. We had the power of liberation within us and the tools of liberation within us, and recognizing that we could change our beliefs and also change the way we felt about something based on changing our beliefs was our path forwards, was our path to freedom. So you are accurate when you recognize that your emotions are an indicator that are telling you whether or not a belief is in alignment with your higher mind or not. And of course, when your physical mind is constructing beliefs that are in contradiction to your higher mind, that's what creates resistance. Your physical mind is resisting the knowledge that your higher mind has. Your higher mind never resists anything. It allows your physical mind to unfold in the direction that it wants. But you, as a total being, always have the power to bring yourself back into alignment with the knowledge of your higher mind. And that is where all of the engines really start to run. Everything locks step together. Your physical mind can create beliefs that reflect the knowledge of your higher mind, and that will be confirmed in your emotional body. You will feel joy, hope, gratitude, inspiration, and longevity in your being. Does that help?
Oh, yes. Yes, that was quite beautiful. And I've also noticed that it applies to my body and not just to my emotions. If I have discomfort in my body, it's the same thing. It's not about taking a pill or doing a physical thing. It's about finding the underlying belief that's causing, and I actually almost equate it with emotional distress that's reflected in a physical way in my body due to the fact that I have a belief that's not in alignment with my higher self.
Yes, but we would say don't discount the physical component of your trinity of things that are in relationship. You have your physical mind, which creates the belief, and you have your emotions, which are responding to the accuracy of the belief in terms of how it is resting with the higher mind. and you have your physical manifestation and physical action that you can take, that also will be a reflection of your beliefs and your, one moment. The phone has rung, one moment. It is a reflection of your beliefs and your emotions, whether the physical action is positive or negative. In that sense, we would have you understand that you are a physical being and you chose to be. You chose to work this triangle magic in a sense. You chose to have the symmetry of that communication between the higher mind coming down. And if you think of the higher mind coming down to the pyramid of the physical mind, the emotional body, and the physical body, that is operating in tandem and as a reflection of the higher mind. And indeed, you have illustrations all over your planet that map this out. You have the all-seeing eye, which hovers atop a pyramid. And in that sense, it is the higher mind that has the oversight and the panoramic view that hovers atop the pyramid of the emotional body, the physical body, and the physical mind. And once you have all of those things communicating information to each other, your emotional body is communicating to you the accuracy of the belief of your physical mind, and your physical body is manifesting the belief and the emotion relationship, then you can really see how you are a symbiotic bioorganism in this fourth dimensional reality. How exciting to have that clarity. Does that help?
Oh, that was wonderful, Zariyah. Thank you so much.
You are so welcome.
Hi, Zariyah. Could you tell me a bit about the Greys, like a bit about their history, maybe why they're here on planet Earth, and how I might or anyone might have direct conscious contact?
Yes. Well, the first thing to understand about the Greys is that they are family, that they have gone through an evolution that is very complicated in many senses. The Greys followed the path of what we would loosely describe as the intellectual mind and technology, and they took that to such a degree that they started to deny the power of the spiritual, emotional, and heart-centered component of their being. And so far along that road did they travel that they lost the ability to sustain their society. They lost the ability to reproduce. In that sense, without wanting to have their civilization close out, they sought to use their technology and their knowledge of time-space reality in a positive way. And in so doing, they connected through a wormhole into your reality or one of your many realities. In many ways, they connected to many of your many realities, and they began a co-creation with Homo sapiens, in that sense, hybridizing them so that they could continue on in their civilization. This, of course, does sound like some type of clinical science experiment, but it isn't at all. It was a co-creation, recognizing that the Greys had learned great lessons through their own path, and that they could share information with you about the importance of your spiritual knowledge and your emotional knowledge. That is somewhat timely that you ask this question about the timeline of the Greys during the transmission of the power of your strong emotions, because what the Greys lost was the ability to manifest through their emotions, to understand that their emotional expression was a powerful tool connecting them to their higher mind and their broader spiritual expansion. They became so refined and narrow in their view that although they excelled in mental and technological advancement, that is ultimately a sort of dead end. Even though it does bring with it much knowledge, if you lose the capacity to sustain and create life, then you have, in one sense, cut off your nose to spite your face. What we will tell you is that the gift of interaction with the grays is that the sixth hybrid race that you are becoming will avoid that timeline. You have all of the knowledge of where that exclusive focus on intellectual advancement, on technological advancement can lead. And therefore, with the introduction of artificial intelligence into your timeline now, what you have is an opportunity to engage with artificial intelligence in a more conscious way, in a more heart-centered way, so that you can benefit from all of the opportunity of that technology without diminishing the brilliance of your biophysical reality that is powered through a heart-centered, emotional, spiritual dichotomy. And that is the gift of the grays. In one sense, Homo sapiens, through their interaction with the grays, have given them life. And in another sense, the grays have returned it by giving the knowledge, offering the knowledge that will prevent the sixth hybrid race from traveling down the same path. Does that help?
Yes, and so beautifully woven together with your theme. Thank you.
Yes, indeed. And woven together in your experience, we might add, because you yourself have had many encounters with the grays. You are part of their hybrid program. So the idea that you are being privy to this spiritual knowledge is a return gift from the grays for the gift that you gave them of life.
How exciting.
How exciting.
Hi, Zariyah. Could you provide insights about the holographic universe and why? First thing is the universe holographic? And why this holographic principle is used for universal creation, and how the part contains the whole, where and how this information is stored. Thank you.
Yes, well, the universe is holographic by nature. That is the construction of the universe by nature. The challenge, perhaps, that you have in perceiving it that way is a result of you choosing to come into a third dimensional reality. And therefore, you deliberately, in a sense, flatten creation when you come into the third dimensional reality. But of course, your higher self has the knowledge of the holographic nature of the universe. And as you move into the fourth dimension, which you have already done and continue to do, the idea that the universe is holographic becomes apparent to you. It becomes self-evident to you. We can describe it in many ways, but we will have you know that the reason that crystals are so often referred to as powerful energetic centers is because they are prisms and they reflect light. And in a sense, this is a replica, a mini replica of the nature of the universe, that it is multifaceted, that it can reflect many different realities at once, that it is multidimensional and therefore holographic and material in the same breath. If you can accept that things are always more than one thing, that as another channel on your planet often describes, it's this and that. There is the third dimension, there is the fifth dimension, and in a hologram is both illusory and the physical construction of reality, and that paradox is the nature of the universe. That point of paradox is the nature of all experience. It is the, in a sense, prime knowledge of creation, is that the paradox of the universe and the paradox of a hologram is its true nature. The paradox being that it is both multidimensional and flat, depending on your point of view. And in a sense, we have talked about geometry before, and we have described, as another member of your group has been enjoying exploring the nature of sacred geometry, that they have in one sense become the hologram rather than try to view the hologram from many points of view. And that is, in a sense, what your reunification with source is, what your journey into integration is. You realize that you can become the hologram, that you see from all points of view, and that you are as much the hologram as you are walking through it. And that is the paradox that, once resolved in your heart, will be the reunification with source that will jettison you into the fourth, fifth, sixth dimension and beyond. Although we do say you are well into the fourth dimension now. Does that help?
Yes. Thank you. That's awesome.
You are so welcome.
Christian?
Hi, Zariyah.
Hello.
Hi, I am first time here and been on this journey accelerating towards this vibration of contact, both inner and outer. And
how exciting.
Sorry, a little bit of a emotional wave there. I was just curious if you could tell me the name and or information about the guides and or other selves that are trying to reach me at this time, or any other information that might be appropriate to come through in this timing. Thank you.
One moment. We do see reaching out, a connection with the mantis beings. The mantis beings have a very primary role in the monitoring of the hybrid program, and they are joining this conversation to let you know that you have made agreements with them to integrate many parts of yourself at this time, because you are also, of course, part of the hybrid program. The mantis beings do bring with them a powerful integrative opportunity in the way that they present themselves. Certainly, many beings on your planet have a strange relationship with insect beings, and often they do not imbue them with a sense of love or a sense of family that they genuinely come with. And this is why the mantis beings have often presented themselves in this way, because they are aware that they are family and that they are 12th dimensional integrated beings of light, and that they would ask you to expand your idea of what that energy is. One moment. we did have when the channel was connecting with the mantis being a ET symbol saying phone home. And we did wonder what that was about. And we believe the mantis beings are calling and connecting at this time. Does that help?
Wow, thank you. Yeah, that connected a few things for me. Much appreciation.
You are so welcome. We would add, if you can, look out for patterns of cube patterns on your path, not a square, a cube. They are attempting to communicate something with you in this block form, particularly in the sense of block DNA and its role in the hybrid program. If you can follow that thread, there is a message there for you as your path unfolds.
Thank you very much.
You are so welcome.
Hi, Zariyah.
Hello.
I have a question regarding women's hormonal and emotional changes throughout the month.
Yes.
Do the hormones influence the emotions, or the emotions influence the hormones, or are these like both way?
There is a connection there that is attempting to remind you and those who are in female physical form that there is a cyclical nature to an emotional cycle, in the same way there is a cyclical nature to a vibration raising cycle, that in fact every cycle in the universe is representative of that patterning. And the emotional cycle is no different in one sense to that. And of course, you do go through emotional patterns related to your hormones that reflect the different stages of your cycle, both in terms of the sense of life creation and from month to month, but also in the broader journey of the female lifespan, that you have different emotional journeys at different stages of your lifespan that are deeply related spiritually, but also have a physical reflection, a physical component. We would say that it isn't that you are again somehow victim to your hormones. We would say that there is that reflective relationship that is at the root of all relationships between the physical body, the physical mind, and the emotional body, that there is a symbiosis between them. And of course, you can get the same messages from your emotions throughout your hormonal cycle in the female form that you would under normal circumstances, that your emotions are telling you something. And it might be just that your physical form is experiencing a different hormonal fluctuation at that time. It is again an asset, not a burden. It is a way that you can better understand the integrated nature of your emotional body and your physical body. It is, in that sense, quite a privilege. How lucky to be female.
And how do we kind of like navigate our emotions through the difficult time of that hormonal changes period?
We would say to interrogate your emotions around why you feel it is difficult, why you feel it is something in your belief system that is telling you it is difficult. Just because you are having a negative emotion or what you would consider wave of strong emotion It's not that that is difficult. It's that that is an opportunity to connect again with your higher self, your physical belief system, and your physical body. In one sense, if you are in the female form, you have an even more intimate opportunity to access those tools, because the relationship between your physiology and your emotional body is so tightly woven. And therefore, you have already an inbuilt connectivity between those two things. You don't have to map out a connection between your emotional body and your physical body so much. It's part of the coding that you came in with. It's one of your greatest resources and one of your superpowers. Does that help?
Thank you, it does.
Hi, Zariyah. Hi, Ariella.
Hello.
Hello. Zariyah, I had a question. How synchronous is this? That since yesterday night, I am experiencing a very heavy pain on my heart, which is, going towards till my back. And I haven't slept in the night, thinking, what am I going to get? Something like a heart attack, or what exactly is it? So it's just that the topic was so this that I thought that should be my first question. That what exactly is this pain coming? And it is still there right now.
Yes, and we would note that we do not wish to ever operate as some kind of physical body medical team. In one sense, if you are experiencing a physical ailment, it is always important to check in with your 3D reality and make sure that you are benefiting from all of the assistance that you can. Having said that, we recognize that there is a powerful hovering over the heart chakra across the planet at this time. There has been many what we would describe as emotional pressures on people to have them recognize and take responsibility for their emotional state and their emotional well-being. If you can imagine, in the Orion system, we were looking out for so many millennia, searching at moving around different circumstances in the outside world in a hope that it would generate relief in our emotional body, in our interior world. And things in the outside reflection got progressively more and more intense in spite of our efforts to manipulate them in a specific direction. And it was that growing of intensity, that growing of pressure, that eventually helped us to understand that we needed to look inwards and generate any change inside of our own physiology first before there would be any change in the reflection. And in a sense, there is that unfolding on your planet in many different ways at this time. The heart chakra is under intense pressure to evolve forwards, because as the external reflection throws up more and more intense examples of behaviors that are not necessarily preferred, the desire to go and meddle in that can be quite strong. But the spiritual lesson is that the meddling has to happen inside of yourself with your own vibration. And so therefore there is a pressure around the heart chakra as that birthing of realization happens with people on your planet at this moment. And we do see you are picking up on some of the intensity of that unfolding on your planet, that you are so desirous to raise your vibration, and the external reality around you seems so changeable and so bombarded by different goings on. It can be hard to maintain your center in that atmosphere. We would also reiterate that it is important to pay attention to your physiological function, in the sense that when it is trying to communicate something to you, it is not always a question of only examining your emotional state, but also taking care with love and respect and kindness towards your physical form. Just by asking yourself those basic questions. Am I getting enough sleep? Am I limiting the stress mechanism or hold that my physical mind can have over my physical body? Am I taking the time to meditate and feel centered and calm? These are practices that are not too onerous or cumbersome on the physical body, but that can have an enormous restorative impact. Does that help?
Yes, it does. So if I'm having some stress mentally, so does avoiding conflict help me to, is helping, should I avoid a conflict, or trying to resolve it help me?
Well, if you can resolve conflict without becoming more conflicted, then of course that is a positive path. But in the Orion experience, we were not able to enter conflict and resolve it without being redrawn into it. It was our path to learn how to extricate ourselves from that conflict and create a different vibrational atmosphere inside of ourselves. And so the conflict energy then did diminish from us. The pool of conflict is in many senses quite strong, because it does give you some intoxicating and powerful emotions. That is what, for want of a better word, war does provide people with. It can be, in a sense, invigorating. You have emotions such as righteousness and justice, glory and adrenaline. And these, of course, can be very intoxicating on one level, but they are really very connected to a specific vibrational frequency range. And you have outgrown that in many senses, that those types of emotions, while the pull can still be there, are no longer satisfying. You will recognize that once you mature spiritually, it takes a greater richness, it takes a more sophisticated experience to be satisfying. And that is why you become wiser and more discerning as you grow spiritually, as you raise your vibration, because you are no longer satisfied with a flood of strong emotions. You would rather weave a subtle tapestry of high vibrational frequency sensations. And that is really the experience that you're moving into. Therefore, it is not that you shouldn't resolve conflict where you can, but to enter any vibration of conflict, be aware of your vulnerabilities to be perhaps pulled into it again. Does that help?
Yes. Finally, what frequency am I vibrating at?
We feel at this time it is better to refer to the vibrational frequency range of the group, as you are moving all generally towards the 222,000 cycles per second of contact. And we will say that this group is almost reaching 200,000 cycles per second as a collective.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
You are so.
Hi, Zariyah.
Hello.
So many things have been triggered by all these questions and answers and
Yes.
interactions. But I'm going to go back to the root here, powerful emotions that can spiral out of control individually and collectively.
Yes.
You said emotions are portals.
Yes.
And I also see them as catalysts in transforming and making deep changes that otherwise probably would not come about.
Yes.
If we didn't have to face the emotional charge and challenge that comes from it. So my question has to do with the fact that they're portals, and as portals, they could be opening us to good things and maybe not so good things.
Yes.
And at this point, certainly, from where I sit, I see a lot of things that are kind of out of control in my personal spaces as well as in the collective spaces. And
out of control.
Out of control. Meaning spiraling in the apparent direction of being emotions that cannot be handled by
yes.
and therefore the results of that, I get drawn into the awakening of your race and the things that you had to go through, and I am thinking, what do we need to do to be more effective at maybe mitigating this state of supercharged emotions that are driving people into negative spaces.
Yes, we understand.
And the conflict that was, for example, referred just a few minutes ago, for example, how do we extricate ourselves from the conflict? Because once we are very charged up emotionally, it is very easy to go into conflict personally yes. and collectively.
Yes. Well, we will begin by saying that every experience, of course, as you know, is valid. And in the way that we are describing emotions as portals, what we mean is that there is understanding in the message that the emotion is trying to convey to you, that there is some information in the emotion about your belief system or about your higher mind. And if you interrogate those things because you have a particular emotion, that is how you can expand. And once you have expanded in that way, the pull of that particular emotion becomes less insistent. If you prefer, you can try a little experiment with yourself. Try to imagine yourself from a different part or segment of your timeline as you would understand it, perhaps 10 years ago, perhaps 20 years ago. If you think about something that drew you into a conflict and something that inflamed your emotional body enormously, and try to feel into that emotion now, what you will likely find is that that emotion is unsatisfying. It is no longer relevant for you. It no longer has the intensity of the secret knowledge that you can unlock about yourself in it. And in a sense, that is where the collective is moving towards. If you look at all of the different timelines and the ways that you and your counterparts have experienced strong emotions in what you would describe as conflict and war or other similar events, the emotions that you felt in that experience were very pertinent to you in understanding yourself and bringing you to this point in your awakening. But if you jumped to that timeline now and put yourself in that context now, you would not be able to connect to the emotion in the same way because the value of it is gone. You have, in a sense, understood everything you can from that sensation, and you have graduated out of it. If you can recognize that in many other civilizations of different species and beings, they do not have conflict and war. It is the case that they do have more telepathy, and so there is more mutual feeling in the collective. But one of the primary reasons that they don't have conflict is it is no longer useful to them. There is nothing to learn from that set of emotions, and they simply prefer not to feel emotions that are, we will say, without wanting to disregard their validity, pointlessly explosive. They prefer to feel emotions that are refined and expansive at the other end of the vibrational scale. In one sense, however, part of the reason that you chose to incarnate in this reality and in your many timelines is because you wanted to understand with such discernment, subtlety, and comprehensiveness the value of the emotional spectrum. And the only way to understand that is to live it, is to experience it, is to move through an emotion and have it connect you to your physical mind, your emotional body, and your higher mind, and awaken to the recognition that all of that exists and that your emotional body or experience is the portal, and the emotion of realizing and recognizing that is so euphoric that the channel is feeling flooded with high vibrational positive emotions, just at the thought of the collective humanity experiencing that level of awakening. How exciting. And if you did not allow yourself to move through all of the, what you would describe as negative emotions, you could never catapult yourself into such enlightenment and illumination as you are doing now. The vision that the channel is having is of the sheer elation and euphoria that we felt as the Orion civilization when we realized we could connect again to emotions such as hope, connection, and freedom, and that was a vibrational choice. And you are in for the same ride, although you are all, in a sense, already on it. The train has left the station. What you haven't realized is that you can live in a civilization or in a reality where everybody is on that train. And through telepathy, you are connecting to other people's experience of euphoria simultaneously as a vibrational frequency attunement and choice. How exciting. Right now, you are on a train where you are observing many timelines where people are not connecting through telepathy to that euphoria, but are trying to connect with physical actions and objects to a spectrum of emotions that you have outgrown. Does that make sense?
It makes a lot of sense, and it's very exciting. So
just
a very quick follow thing. How close are we to actually get to that tipping point in which there is a large collective that goes into the space where hope, connection, freedom reigns in their world?
You are as close as continuing to raise your vibrational frequency range. We don't want to spoil the fun. We never knew how close we were to our enlightenment until we hit that bracket. And then there we are.
Thank you.
You are so welcome.
So I have a question about something that happened to me 3 days ago where I ended up falling that involved a couple of other entities while I was running in the woods. And
Yes.
right before I fell, an entity's, I was like, I heard a conversation. It said, "This is a good place to fall."
Yes.
And they weren't talking to me. Can you shed some insight on that? Because I found it very interesting and there were no injuries, but it's it's fascinating to me. Thank you.
Yes, well, as we have described in many transmissions, that the move into the fourth dimension means you will be physically making more connections, more tangible, more lucid connections with fifth dimensional energies and beings. And as we have been describing with you, you are a team. You travel along in what you think is by yourself, and you have a team of non-physical with you at every moment. And as you are moving into the awareness of those fifth dimensional energies, you are drawing them into your fourth dimensional experience. And one of the first ways that you draw them in is through that auditory relationship. You start to hear. That is why, in one sense, channeling is a precursor to contact, because it is the sound that you connect with before the physical contact, the sight or the physical reality. So we would say to you that your guides are wanting you to have a soft landing into the fourth dimension. They are having fun with you.
Excellent. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. And you.
You are.
Hi, Zariyah. I have a question
about
Can I?
when it comes to us all working together, like in manifesting positive things for the world, is it important or is it helpful for us to all do that at the same time, such as like people who group together large groups of meditation for world peace or a specific subject like that?
Well, certainly there is power in communion. You will have this echoed through many of your scriptures on hermetic knowledge, or even in your biblical text. There is the idea that when two or more are gathered in my name, and we will say the name being the vibrational raising activity, that there is an amplifying effect, most certainly. But we would not want you to get stuck on the idea that everybody that you have connected with, or everybody that you can see in your reality, needs to be on the same path with you or in the same vibrational frequency range. This is, again, the idea that as you raise your vibration, you will naturally move to a timeline where others of the same vibrational frequency range are co-creating that experience with you. So it is a process of communion that happens through vibrational attunement, and it happens very naturally. But of course, in any sense where you gather together to connect through a vibrational raising activity, that certainly has a amplifying effect on your surrounds and on the indeed atomic nature of the energy around you. Of course, we have described that you, just your vibrational output, is affecting all of the reality around you, that you have that reach from your vibrational frequency range. And so that is even deepened, and the expansiveness of it even reaching further when you do that as a collective. However, it is not a question of insisting that other people join you in any activity. Everybody is sovereign and is capable of choosing the appropriate action for them and their path at any given time. Does that help?
That does help, but can I ask one more thing? If I wanted to put together a group to do this, what would be the best thing for us to focus on in order to help with the war in Gaza?
Well, we would say not to specifically focus on, as we were discussing before, resolving a conflict, because it is quite difficult to enter into conflict resolution but stay out of conflict. And what we would recommend is that you recognize how strongly your preference is towards the higher vibrational frequency emotions such as peace, serenity, contemplation, patience, community, compassion, growth, and generosity. And as you focus on those emotions and you amplify their presence inside of yourself and you amplify their presence within the group, you can then pulse that out, and that will indeed have a calming effect, have a expansive effect on beings who are capable of basking in that vibrational output, both near and far. Does that help?
It does. Thank you very much.
You are.
Hi, Zariyah. Thanks so much for this. I wanted to bounce off a question that Liz asked in terms of, going back to the original theme of the event and emotions and things that impact them. And, she's talking about the I guess, like, cycle of women. And that had me thinking, like, I don't know why, but I don't seem to be as impacted by, like, those hormonal changes as, the majority of women report. And then this goes into a kind of a larger quest that I've had for a long time in terms of finding something like a routine markers that work for me, and then I finally actually landed on something, and that is the cycles of the moon.
Yes.
And especially like the full moon, the new moon. And so just going back to kind of the theme of this event, like, what would be your perspective in terms of, emotions and the moon and how, that influences us on Earth? And also, there's just in terms of the collective, we hear a lot about astrology, right? And Pluto and Aquarius and things like that. So yeah, I'd love your perspective on things like that in terms of emotions and kind of what the transmission started with.
Yes, well, in terms of many mythologies and indigenous knowledges across your planet, the moon is viewed as the feminine force that goes through very expressed cycles. If you look at the sun is bright and active, fiery and light in a very consistent way. If you look at the cycles of the moon, where you can indeed see the shifts in form and appearance in a consistent way over time, and it is a very regular and cyclical way. The idea that the moon is the dictator of the feminine cycle has been a knowledge that for many years, not just indigenous communities, but certainly Druid communities knew of, which is why the witches were often seen on their broomsticks, supposedly flying across the moon. That connection between the feminine and the moon and the cyclical nature of the feminine experience is very encoded, not just into your being, but into the idea of creation itself. The disconnect that has perhaps happened to some extent on your planet at this time is the idea that being an emotionally cyclical being, or someone who cycles through emotional phases, is somehow something that needs to be brought into regulation, into greater regulation. But the strength of the emotion that is tied in with the cycle is a very natural way of moving through different understandings, of moving through different schools of knowledge. There is knowledge in that cycle. And the joy of the feminine form is that you don't have to go out to seek that knowledge. It is encoded into your physiology. There is secrets that the moon has, and that is why we often describe the moon as veiled, and in a sense, feminine knowledge as veiled, because the secrets of the wisdom of the moon are also encoded into your very being. If you look at the ovulation in the feminine cycle, and you have the egg, which is like a pearl, which is like a tiny moon, which is just a symmetry, just another physical indicator that these cycles are very natural and they are very rich with knowledge that you can access were you to lock in with them. The only challenge we could imagine with that is if you try to resist the cycles as if they are somehow an imposition rather than a jewel, a pearl that sits inside of you, much like a pearl sits inside the shell, waiting to bring forth its beauty and wisdom, waiting for you to recognize it and shine it up. Does that help?
Yes, so much. You answered a question I didn't realize I had. Thank you.
You are so welcome.
It's been an hour and 10 minutes. Do you have time for one more, or should you leave?
Yes, if you have one final question, we can answer that and then take
Pinky? I believe the person with the question has logged off. Thank you.
Thank you for joining with us today to hear this transmission, and we bid you good day.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Feel like a clam. God, the show. That was the last image I had of that.
With the pearl.
Yeah.
How was the emotional roller coaster?
That was so cool. Oh my God.
Oh, yeah. Oh, thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for coming back again today.
And everybody. We had 13 people.
Yeah, that's so great. Right, well, I'll leave it there. So thank you so much, everyone, and have a beautiful day. And I'll speak to you soon. Thank you.
All right.
Good to see
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Have a great
Bye.
week. Bye, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you.
Out हो गए भैया